played at high volume, preferably in a residential.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on when and where you're listening. But regardless of when or where you're listening, we appreciate you hanging out with us. If you're hanging out with us live tonight, we're going to be answering your questions, and then we're going to break down our plays and fades for week 3 as well. So if you're watching with us on YouTube and want to support our content, the best thing you can do is to like this video, number one, subscribe to the Fantasy and Frames YouTube channel, to make sure that you're aware anytime a new podcast or short from us drops. And then you can also search for all the podcasts here at Fantasy and Frames by name on your preferred podcast platform. For us, make sure to subscribe to the Fourth and Frames podcast. And then, of course, you got the website. Of course, make sure to head over there for the latest weekly rankings for both Redraft and IDP, as well as our staff Dynasty rankings and all of our latest articles as well. Gentlemen, normally would have been Rhett doing that much more eloquently than I ever could, but he isn't feeling well. He had to take the night off, and then Nate toughened it out. But my understanding, you're not doing so hot yourself. So how are you tonight, man?
I'm okay. Just a little scratchy throat. So maybe I'll sound soothing and relaxing for the viewers, or maybe I can lull them into a state of hypnosis and give either good or bad advice that people will forget. But remember, all of my picks are good. All of my stats passes are bad. All pray.
You got the Men in Black little putting the thing up or something.
Right,
something
exactly.
doesn't go well. It's all good. It's all good. Kyle, I went to an NFL game this weekend that I think that you might have had some interest in. Did you catch the Titans game this weekend?
I did. Did you enjoy the game, Drew?
I did. I had a really good time, man. I went with one of my longest friends. He's a brother to me. He's also a lifelong Titans fan, and so it made it that much sweeter to get to experience that with him. So yeah, I had a great time.
It would have been just so much better if I was on the other side of you, right?
It would have. The next time, 4 more years, they'll be back. We're making that happen. We're going to arrange that. We got time to plan ahead. It'll be in the new stadium. We're going to make that happen for sure.
It won't be Matthew Stafford, so yeah.
Yeah, there you go. He's already looking up for you. Hopefully it will still be Cam Ward at least. Yes. Rob, Thomas, thank you for joining us tonight, man. And then Jorge has confirmed. Nate sounds like that. So we appreciate you talking it out for us, though, man. You're not even doing it. You're not doing it for us. You're doing it for the people. You're a man of the people. And then Aiden, a fan of the Get Up from Kyle tonight. So we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. If last week was any indication of how these things are going to go, we are going to struggle to get through the show in the time we'd like to. So let's just jump right into it. The first thing that we're going to talk about, just getting into some reactions from week 2. Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow has a grade 3 turf toe injury that's expected a knee surgery and sidelining for at least 3 months. Nate, what do we? We just invested all this draft capital in Jamar Chase, 101, 102 at worst. T. Higgins at the 2-3 turn. Chase Brown, same thing. What's this offense looking like now with no Joe Burrow for possibly the entire season? Best case scenario, he comes back around like week 15 if he actually is on schedule, and that's assuming that the Bengals even have anything to play for that deep into the season. For the foreseeable future, we're going to be without Joe Burrow. So what are we doing?
The quarterback replacement scenario, if you need someone if you're in a deep enough league where you can't just pick someone off, and the idea of looking at Browning as being a viable option that many have brought up, because if you go back to 2023, when really that's the only sample size that we have of similar offense, similar situation, is that weeks 11 to 18, he was the QB5 over that time frame. So a lot of people look back at that and they think and remember the positives, because it is a bad defense. I'm going to use the word capable quarterback. He's got weapons and he'll chuck the ball. And we saw that back then, as QB5, QB12 on a per game basis. It's probably not the sell is hard for Chase and T, just because that's obvious that their production should go down. Again, 2023, let's look at that. It was T. Higgins that was the more successful on a per game basis. He was the wide receiver 23 per game, 40 overall. Jamar was the wide receiver 35 overall on a per game basis. So his production did dip. The one area, if I want to say it may be a buy, I don't know if it's going to be easy to buy Chase Brown, but if there's someone who thinks that there's going to be a correlation to discounted production as a result of the quarterback change, keep this in mind. During that stretch with Browning, Joe Mixon and Chase Brown combined for 43 targets. That's from weeks 11 to 18. That was a 17% target rate to the running back position. Will they do the same formula? I don't know 100%, but if we've seen it once, that means there's a possibility that Browning level of checking down. If there's a buy opportunity, I don't have a problem. These first 2 weeks, and actually, let's focus on the next 2 weeks. 2 extremely tough games for Cincinnati. If the buy window isn't open, you may not have to come and actually break it yourself. It may just be broken here in 2 weeks, and it might be wide open. You can climb right and take advantage and just keep this. Check this off. Don't attribute it to the delusional sick guy that was telling you to do it, but it's actionable. And that if there is that upside, maybe the touchdown potential might be a little bit lower if the offense does sputter a little bit. But give me a little increased target volume. I'm fine with Chase.
Yeah, and then so Will Power, he says he'll stick around for 2 shows in a row. Will, we appreciate you hanging out with us. I know Shoot the Gap appreciated you hanging out with them the hour before. So thanks for tuning in for the Wednesday Night Fantasy and Frames Marathon. We appreciate it. He has a follow-up, man. Kyle, I'm going to send this to you. Is Browning going to be better than Spencer Rattler rest of the season? Cincinnati has a tough stretch coming up here. So knowing that you're going to have Browning for the foreseeable future, would you rather have him or Rattler rest of the season?
Yeah, I think I would rather have Browning over Rattler at this point. Nate said it. He was QB5 back in 2023. We've seen it once. He's got Jamar Chase. He's got T. Higgins. He has Chase Brown. He has the offensive weapons around him to be successful. And I picked up Browning in one of my home leagues because I had Michael Penix and J.J. McCarthy in that league. And I was pretty excited about getting Browning because I want a piece to this Bengals offense. I don't care who it is. We've seen Browning before. He's done well. I like Browning over Rattler for the rest of the season. You guys?
Yeah, I agree. I would take Browning as well.
Yeah. Rest of season for sure. Next 2 weeks, hard to say.
True.
That's not the yeah, exactly. That wasn't the question. So we answer the question.
Yeah. And then Aiden is saying everyone is saying to sell Chase Brown right now, but I'm total opposite. I'm buying everywhere I can. Yeah, I mean, he's getting basically every touch in that backfield, and there's not too many running backs that can say that. So if the price dips enough, the volume, regardless of how bad the offense might end up being, the volume will still be, he'll still be a startable fantasy asset. So yeah.
And they might want to, they may want to protect Browning a little bit because he does turn the ball over a little bit. Browning does. So maybe they want to curb that back a little bit and use Chase Brown a little bit more, a lot more rushing, maybe some screen passes, safe throws to keep Browning from turning the ball over.
Correct. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Completely agree. Albert, what's up, man? Appreciate you tuning in as always, brother. And then Moggs, appreciate you as well, man. Thanks for being here again tonight. Yeah, people were all in for J.J. McCarthy, and then a couple games behind, a really bad offensive line, and everything's changed. He might be, honestly, one of the better buys in Dynasty right now with how good he did look in game 1. And then, we know that the injury happened earlier than we initially thought in game 2. He's in that offense with Kevin O'Connell. I wasn't even the biggest JJ guy coming out of college, but I think he's a pretty good, pretty solid buy in Dynasty Superflex leagues right now. If the JJ owner in your league feels the same way.
Yeah, it just sucks that he hasn't been on the field. He's missed 18 games now, and it just sucks for him. Yeah. He's got to get out there. He's got to get the reps in. But yeah, there's still some upside there with McCarthy. He just got to get the reps in.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. All right, so the next reaction from week 2, it's been a hot topic if you're in the fantasy football Twitterverse as well. A lot of noise about the day 1 and day 2 rookie running backs that have disappointed fantasy managers to start the year. So through the first weeks in half PPR. We've got Ashton Genty at the running back 27, Travion Henderson at running back 36, RJ Harvey at running back 43, Amarion Hampton at running back 44, Quinshon Judkins at running back 48. Only played one game, though. He had to miss the first game. I honestly thought looked a little bit better and played a little bit more than I personally expected going into this week. But, as things go, not the start a lot of fantasy managers were hoping whenever they drafted these guys in, the first, second, fourth, fifth round, depending on which guy you're talking about. I think it's somewhat expected to have a slow start whenever you're talking about rookies. I think this is what most of us know we were signing up for, and I would think that there might not be a buy opportunity, but then whenever you see some of the reactions on Twitter, it might lead you to believe there might actually be some buy opportunities out there because people are kind of freaking out. So I'm going to ask you both, Nate, and I'll throw it to you first. Is there a particular one of these guys that you're overly panicked about that you feel like you need to sell, or is there a guy that stands out as somebody that you're looking to buy with how the first 2 weeks have played out?
Yeah, the sell part, no. There's really not one that I had invested heavily in enough that I don't see a pathway to success. From a buy standpoint, I still want to believe. I know we talked about him off air. I want to believe that Caleb Johnson, from a situational standpoint, it's probably because I have actual shares of Caleb Johnson. And when you actually own a piece of somebody, you have those optimistic hopes. The one that had, I think, the highest upside for me in terms of where I see the path to fantasy success is still in Travion Henderson. I still see the pass catching prowess being the single most important part of an offense of someone that I can buy that's not going to cost me a complete arm and a leg because people are going to hold tight. I still think they do, but he has enough ancillary pass catching, like I said, floor that maybe he's still cheap enough. But it's hard. It's hard to buy rookie running backs. Redraft is obviously what we're talking about from this, because I don't think you're referring to Dynasty in that, because I couldn't imagine the price tag in that. But it's tricky.
Kyle, what about you? Is there a guy that stands out in this group that you're actively looking to go get, hoping that the manager might have soured on?
I think you can make a case to maybe buy RJ Harvey if you can find a good deal. Look, right now, Dobbins is the lead back. Through 2 weeks, Dobbins has a 50% snap share. Compared to Harvey's, it is down to 31.5%. And small sample size aside, Dobbins has taken all 3 of his snaps inside the 5-yard line, converting on a touchdown with those carries. But I don't think that's going to be the case for the entire season. I don't. So, and let's just say, even if it is, let's just say, all right, Dobbins is the guy. Let's say the snap shares continue like the way it is. Mm-hmm. If you can get Harvey for less than what that owner paid, which was what, 5th, 6th round, then I'd say make the move, because if Dobbins were to go down, you got an RB1 in Denver. It's a one-man band in RJ Harvey.
Yeah, I agree. I like Harvey as well. Honestly, there's not a guy on this list that I'm concerned about. And to Nate's point, I do think that even in redraft, I think the price tag is still going to be high, as it should be. But if there is a Jinty or Hampton or Henderson or Harvey manager that is panicking, this should absolutely be the time that you go buy low, because we don't know how much longer this is going to last. But these guys are all very talented. They were drafted highly for a reason. And historically speaking, we don't get much out of rookies the first 2 weeks of their career. This is not something new. If you just go looking back at historical data, very little production typically comes early in these guys' careers. For the most part, we know. I'd like to think we know what we're signing up for whenever we draft rookies. You're going to get off to a slow start, and they're going to make up for that down the stretch as they gain these larger roles in the offense, and they get to showcase the reason that they were drafted as highly as they were. And it's the reason why we were recommending drafting guys like Travis Etienne, or like our boy Hayden in the chat recommending you to draft Javonte Williams, some of these later running backs that aren't as flashy but projected to have starting roles to go into the year. If you paired those things together during draft season like we recommended, these slow starts aren't as painful to go through. Let's jump into the chat real quick. Got a couple questions. Speaking of,
real quick, can I just ask a quick question, Drew? I wanted to ask y'all, because before we get off topic with Quinshon Judkins, are any of y'all worried? Nobody's even really talking about this, but there's still a possibility of a suspension looming over his head. Are any of us worried about that?
It is definitely something to be worried about. I think it'll probably just be a few games, and so I think you'll still have him at some point. Yeah, I would say that would probably be the starting point. But I don't know, Nate. Are you more concerned about that coming down at just like a random point this season?
I mean, I think there's always reason to be concerned, just because at this point you're hoping that you get not chaotic interruption. Like the last thing I would ever want is to be weeks 13 through 17 as the suspension. Why Cleveland would do that? Probably because they'd be out of it and they could care less, and it doesn't really affect them. They're not competitors where they have a true concern. And that's the one thing I would hate to do, is get hit by, like, if it happened next week, fine, you've been without them. But the unknown and the uncertainty is definitely the concern.
Yeah, I think that's fair. All right, let's go through some of these questions real quick. Rob had one for us. Start one in PPR, Travis Etienne or Tony Pollard. Nate?
I have my answer is going to be Tony Pollard, and I'll back that up with one of my starts for this week. Rob, if you want some more data to back up my opinion, I'll give it to you here in a bit.
Man, as a Titans fan, I'm still going to go Travis Etienne on this. He's finished running back 6, running back 12, 2 weeks in a row. Houston might be a little bit tougher of a matchup, but I just don't know. In another divisional game with the Titans and the Colts, I respect this Colts defense a lot more than a lot of people are really talking about. I don't know. I just
good work over there.
And the Titans offense is, God, I mean, I don't even know what to say about them. I'm just not that excited about Tony Pollard, but maybe Nate can talk me into it later. But for me, I would go Etienne, because even with Brayshaw Tootin, I still like what I've seen out of Etienne in PPR.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tootin, to get more involved. I've got Etienne as a top 12 back this week, so I would be going Etienne personally. But make sure you hang out with us. We're going to be getting to our smash plays here shortly, and Nate might be able to change all of our minds. So make sure to hang out for us with that. Okay, let's see. We had a trade question. This is actually a Dynasty trade, but we had a trade question. He missed out on Henderson in his rookie draft. Before week 1, traded A.J. Brown for him straight up in a Dynasty league. Looking pretty good, pretty even deal right about now. I have no problem with that, honestly. Whenever you look at AJ's age, I do think there's better. Like I think his season is going to go much better as we get along. I think he's a great buy low candidate as far as redraft goes. But whenever we're talking Dynasty, yeah, I still think Henderson has very, very bright career ahead of him. So I don't think you have anything to be worried about there.
Agreed.
Okay. Is Dak and Jonathan Taylor for Chase Brown and Rashee Rice or Ibuka? Let's see. Dak, Javonte, any good for them? 12-man PPR with lineup as Mahomes, Saquon, JT, Tyreek, DJ Moore, and Javonte as my lineup. Okay, so you've got Mahomes, Saquon, and JT.
Yeah. 2
very solid running backs, Tyreek, DJ Moore, Javonte. So you need some receiver help. And so
yeah, we still got some time with Rashee Rice. He's still going to be out for another few weeks.
Yeah. And while in a vacuum, actually not even a vacuum, straight up, JT and Chase Brown.
This was Dynasty, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think this one's redraft.
Oh, okay.
Oh, this one is?
Will was the one that had the Dynasty.
Gotcha.
So this is redraft. So Dak and JT for Chase Brown and Rashee Rice or Ibuka. Dak and JT. I mean, if it's a 1 quarterback league and you've got Mahomes already, I have no issue with you trading Dak. That doesn't move the needle for me at all. Like I have no problem with that. You only need 1 quarterback anyway.
Right.
So if you're able to turn JT into Chase Brown and Rice or Chase Brown and Ibuka, you do need the receiver help, and you have, assuming Javonte holds on, you have the running back depth to trade from. That's definitely the spot you want to be trading from. It's not going to feel great to trade JT with how great he looks and how involved he is. Like that's a tough pill to swallow, but I understand if and why you wanted to go this route. I would probably go for Ibuka over Rice. Well, I don't know if you're off to a hot start, if you're off to a 2-0 start. Maybe you do Rice, but if you're 1-1, 0-2,
yeah,
I think I would probably go Ibuka. So I don't know I don't know how that is there, but I get why you want to go this route. But man, JT's a tough guy to trade right now with that. Not just how good he looks, but how many snaps he's playing. Like, I mean, he's an every down player, and he looks just as explosive as he's ever looked, and he's more involved in the passing game than he's ever been. Like that was my biggest concern with JT coming into the season, when he's never been that involved in the passing game. He's seeing career best in that through a couple of weeks. And if he puts that together with his athletic ability and how great of a runner he is, I mean, running back one overall is absolutely within his grasp this year if he sees an uptick in receiving work. And so that's not going to feel good to trade away.
You sound like me 10 weeks ago when we had this discussion with John.
It was a great call on your part, man, and is aging very, very well through 2 weeks. Great call on your part.
It's the Shane Steichen offense, man. I just love it.
Yeah. No, that was a great call. Will you help me decide my starts? Absolutely, man. Drop them in the chat. If we missed them, I apologize. Drop it again. But yeah, we can absolutely do that.
Drew has a 99% hit rate on these questions, guys. He just misses 1% of the time.
There's gonna be one I'm gonna miss probably. I probably already have, because the chat's been active tonight. We appreciate you guys being so active and hanging out. So I'm sure I might have already dropped a question. I tell you this right now: if I miss a question, just drop it again. And there's a chance I'll see it. I got no problem with you guys dropping a question more than once, and then I'll probably see it the second time. Who knows? All right. So we've talked about Joe Burrow. We've talked about the rookie running backs. You know what? We're not going to talk about backup quarterbacks yet. That'll come up later on. We're gonna get into things here. Before we get into our smash and pass, though, we want to thank the good people over at Trophy Smack. So over at Trophy Smack, Fantasy and Frames 10 gets you 10% off anything they have in stock. The belts, the rings, the trophies, you name it, they've got it. I'm not just saying this because they're a sponsor. We've got rings and trophies for even a belt, I think, for multiple leagues that I'm in. All of them come from Trophy Smack. All of them great quality. So if that's something that you need for your league, you should actually go through. Whenever you do, go over to trophysmack.com, put in the code Fantasy and Frames 10, and watch yourself save money and hook up your league with a great piece for your championship bragging rights. So head over to Trophy Smack. My advice: do not wait until the end of the season, because they're going to be sold out, and you're going to have to wait a little bit, because once the fantasy championship gets here, everybody else also wants a trophy. Get yours now so you don't have to worry about that. So head over to Trophy Smack and do that. All right. Now, before we got a couple more questions real quick before we get into the smash or pass. First one, running back question from Caesar: Breece Hall or Ramondre Stevenson this week? Kyle, you have an easy one for this?
I wouldn't say easy, but I'll go with Breece over Ramondre. I just don't know if I buy the whole big game from Ramondre just yet. Breece is the guarantee guy to get those touches, so I'm going to go Breece Hall on this one.
Yeah, I'm Breece by, I don't want to say considerable, but a pretty decent margin. And I want to put a caveat on one thing earlier too. I really will say, I think my answer between ETN and Pollard was quickly just not really probably the best answer for me, because I didn't even consider to discuss it. All I want to do is promote the Tony Pollard smash play, but I do have yes. But at the same time, the smart thing to do is say I have Travis Etienne ranked higher than Tony Pollard. And in just that option, I too would agree with you guys that Travis Etienne is probably the smarter play. So I don't want to convince you guys by giving you this, load of crap that I think that it's still a better move just because I have good data and I can back it up. It is still Etienne, but maybe another Pollard versus question will come up and I can use that for that.
And folks, Nate's a little bit under the weather, so it's just Nate being under the weather.
It's that cough medicine. He's on the good cough medicine. What you're really going to convince Rob Thomas of is not why he should start Pollard over Etienne. It's why he should start Pollard over whoever he was planning on starting in the flex. That's what you're going to do. That's what you're going to do.
Rob's such a good listener of ours. My guess is he has such a stacked team in the draft that it is a tricky. Like, he has to choose between Etienne and Tony Pollard as his flex
That
running
could be the
back.
case too.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm guessing. If I know anything
Well,
about
and honestly,
Rhett.
based on where they were drafted, that's a very realistic possibility for sure. But yeah, Caesar, it's a clean sweep. I actually like Ramondre this week. I'm going to talk about him in a little and here very shortly. But even saying that, I mean, Brees is a borderline top 15 guy for me this week. So, all right. Have Bijan and Kenneth Walker want to trade DJ Moore and Jordan Mason for BTJ. Will end up with McConkey, BTJ, and Rashee Rice whenever he turns. Currently thin at receiver, having to start Calvin Austin, Cedric Tillman this week. Don't mind starting Cedric Tillman, but that's rough having to start Calvin Austin. So Bijan and Walker already running back wants to trade DJ Moore and Jordan Mason for BTJ. How do you guys feel about that?
I would do it.
Yep.
I like Jordan Mason a lot now going forward. I would do that though. You're buying BTJ pretty low, in my opinion.
I agree with that.
I think
no, this is the lowest you'll ever have a chance to get Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's a great buy low candidate. I think this is a great trade to made. It's gonna be tough to swallow for the next few weeks while Aaron Jones is out and Jordan Mason is eating up a lot of touches. It's gonna feel bad watching Jordan Mason be productive for like the next month. But
Zach Charbonnet's banged up. Did you guys see that? He could be he's banged up a little bit.
Yeah. And Walker has looked miles better than Charbonnet has too. I know the touches haven't been there, the snaps haven't been there, but Walker that cannot continue much longer. And Walker
a nice 3
with an injury, but yeah. I mean, he'll be even without you can give up Jordan Mason whenever you've got a running back room like that, and then whenever you've got BTJ, McConkey, and Rice here in a few weeks, whenever he comes back, you're going to be sitting pretty. All right, smash or pass time. We're going to start with our smash plays. So just as a reminder, we're staying away from we're not going to sit here and tell you, hey, Bijan Robinson's a smash play this week or CeeDee Lamb's a smash play this week. Like, you guys know that, right? We're not here to insult your intelligence. We're trying to like explore around the running back twos, wide receiver twos, flex plays, those kind of guys. So we're staying away from players out there. We're only focusing on players that are outside the top 12 quarterbacks, outside the top 15 running backs, top 20 receivers, or the top 10 tight ends in the Fantasy Pros week 2 expert consensus ranking, or week 3, expert consensus rankings. So with that being said, Nate, we've teased it enough. Go ahead and hit us. Who is your first smash play for week 3?
Yeah, it is. It's Tony Pollard in a matchup that I do expect to be a heavyweight battle. It's going to be tough, but we got to look at Tony Pollard and look at where he's at right now, which is the RB 29.5 point PPR, and the only reason he's that low is not because he's had 38 total attempts rushing, not because he has 152 yards rushing. It's because it's the lack of the touchdowns and the pass catching hasn't been there quite yet. And it's not because he can't catch passes. It's not because he doesn't have the ability to get into the end zone, but it's the opportunity of this week, which is kind of strange. Like, I didn't expect Indy to be the team that I would pick on. Granted, it's after 2-week sample size. I know that's short or low, but there are certain trends that are beginning to happen that maybe I want to pay attention to going forward. And that's that Indianapolis has allowed the 4th highest target volume to the opposing running back position, 23%. So if Tony Pollard's going to get active, granted, first week matchup, Denver Broncos, nobody wanted to start him, 18 attempts, 60 yards. So they're still willing to give him the ball. It was the lack of pass catching. And then against a Rams team that's extremely tough against the front, 20 more attempts, 92. Indy might not be easier, but I think that they do 2 things that should lend to Tony Pollard having a little more of an upside smash type is, again, like I said, the target volume to opposing running backs. And they've also allowed the second highest explosive run rate at 14%. So while Pollard's 6th in rushing, only 2 runs of 10+ yards, 0 breakaway runs per PFF so far. I think all 3 of those trends can buck. I think that a touchdown is possible. I think 4 to 6 targets is a possibility. And I think that the volume, hopefully somewhere around that 4 to 4.5 yards per attempt, will contribute to a top 18 fantasy finish this week, putting him as a smash for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And a follow-up question, Nate, I'll let you get your rankings pulled up. While you're doing that, I'll give my thoughts on this, but Will wanted to know, he gave us a list of running backs in the kind of the same territory and said, would you start Pollard over any of these guys? Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt, Jordan Mason, Kenneth Walker, Breece Hall, Jalen Warren. I'm starting Mason, Walker, and Breece, all three over Pollard still, but I would start Pollard over JCM and Jalen Warren personally. Nate, I don't know if you have any disagreements there. Anybody you would play Pollard over that I wouldn't?
The only person that I have him ahead of it is the Breece Hall. Is the one that's below by one spot. I have it 19. And the only reason is because it's against Tampa. And historically speaking, Tampa scares me enough to move them one of the other. But I have Kenneth Walker at 17, one spot ahead. I'm flip-flopping a couple guys in that range. But I have Crosby-Merritt about 5 spots down, about 25, I think is where I have him at. Yeah, I have him at 25 right now. Maybe I move him up if someone can convince me. But as of tonight, with my cough medicine, I can be persuaded.
No, I'm a
How about you, Bo?
I'm a JCM guy, and we'll talk about him later. But in this instance, I would still go Tony Pollard over JCM just because I don't know if we can maybe fully trust JCM yet. We got to see him pop again, like we've seen in Week 1. But right now, Tony Pollard is the guy there in Tennessee, so I would go with him over JCM. But like what you said earlier with Walker, Breece, and Pollard, those three.
Where do I have Warren? Okay. That's the one I didn't actually look at real quick. I know I had him higher.
He's right there in that back end RB2 range, if I had to guess, probably. Yep.
And he's the guy that's really surprised me too, Jalen Warren. He really has he's really taken that role on, and kudos to him. He's done well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely, 100%. All right, Dub Nation has a question for us. He needs one receiver and one flex, and gives us plenty of options to choose from. We got Keenan Allen, Ricky Pearsall, Tedero McMillan, Calvin Ridley, Kenneth Walker, PPR, and then there's a follow-up question, but we'll get to that quarterback question in just a second. So, out of those group, you got to pick one receiver and one flex. So, is there a clear? Let's fill the receiver spot first, since he gave us several of those to pick from. Is there a clear standout receiver that you're going with there to fill the receiver spot?
Man, Kenny Walker for me for sure, but receiver is my thought here. I'm not sure yet. Do you know, Nate?
I mean, by my rankings would be Tedero McMillan is who I have the highest. Not the devil's advocate type scenario, but I want to try to find but I just don't want to have too many Titans on the Smash recommendations. But I found myself, I knew this was going to be an issue going into the season because I had Calvin Ridley and I had Tony Pollard so high. I knew it was going to be conflicting, and it happens the same thing. My concern with like San Francisco, as much as I love Pearsall, is that Juwan Jennings with Mac Jones seemed to be the first read go-to, kind of like we had seen before with the healthy Juwan Jennings. So I think it's McMillan and Kenneth Walker. Kyle, you say Kenneth Walker. Are you comfortable with Tedero?
Yeah, I'd go there too. Mm-hmm.
And Drew's clean sweep.
Yep. McMillan and Walker. Clean
sweep. Ted's got 19 targets there in 2 weeks, 10 and 9. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going with Ted.
Matt, the matchup will be interesting against Atlanta. We'll see. We'll see how Carolina's offense holds up against that new look pass rush. But I agree, though. I think it's McMillan and Kenneth Walker. All right, Jamar Chase and Jonathan Taylor for Josh Allen and CMC. Assuming this is a one quarterback league, it's very comfortably Jamar Chase and JT for me. Super flex, it would change things. Yeah. But assuming it's one quarterback, do you guys disagree, or would you take the Allen and CMC side?
No, I would stick with Chase and JT. I don't like trading for, especially a guy like Jamar Chase. I don't care if it's Josh Allen for a onesie position. I don't want to trade for him. I'll find Jake Browning and just roll with that if I really need a quarterback. But I'm curious who your quarterback is.
Speaking of, I forgot about that.
Yes.
We were supposed to answer that. Jake Browning or Mac Jones.
Browning for me.
Start one this week.
I don't know if I want to do it this week. I can't ever fathom a situation.
Browning is against Minnesota and Mac Jones is against
Arizona. I know, that is tough, yeah.
Yeah, the Mac Jones matchup is so much better to me. But it's like the God.
They're almost like back to back too. Whenever I'm sitting here and looking at, like whenever I just pulled up the rankings, I'm sitting there looking at them. They're basically back to back.
I'll probably, you know what? I'm gonna attach myself
I'd
to an
probably go
offense.
Mac
Exactly. That's what I would do. Browning.
God, I don't want to have an answer. I'm gonna let you guys just. I'm gonna go. I'll say Browning as well, even though I hate that matchup. It is
You
back to
get
back.
2 Brownings.
Yeah.
All right. Do we drop any of the following players? Aaron Jones, Isaiah Pacheco, Hampton, Tracy? Absolutely not on Hampton. Absolutely not. Do not drop Hampton.
Or Pacheco.
Aaron Jones. Pacheco has not looked great. And the
drop though? You're going to send him out to the other league mates?
Who are you picking?
Depends on who you're picking up to do it.
Right. Like let's talk about the top waivers
out there.
Let's say it is. So Troy Franklin is out there and was one of the top waivers. Would you dropping Aaron Jones for Troy Franklin if you're not absolutely desperate at wide receiver?
No.
Let's say you lost your quarterback and you have to pick up somebody because you had Burrow or McCarthy. Are you dropping Aaron Jones or would you drop Aaron Jones? This is not his question. This is probably dumb to even speculate. But let's say he has Burrow. Would you rather drop Aaron Jones to pick up Browning, or would you rather drop Joe Burrow to pick up Browning?
I would just drop Burrow.
I'd rather drop Joe Burrow. He's not coming back till December.
There you go. Interesting.
Yeah.
I think you can, if you have to drop somebody out of this list, I think you could drop Tyrone Tracy. I think we started to see a change of the guard already. The fact that it's already happening in week 2, it looks like Cam Scatterbo is going to be working his way into being the lead guy in that offense. I think if there's somebody that you just have to drop out of this scenario, Tracy would probably be the pick for me.
I am very curious though of your bench. Is it a short bench, shallow bench? Is it a deep bench? I would love to know that for Aaron Jones to drop or not. If it's a shallow bench, because I'm in a league where I have Aaron Jones actually, and it's a bench of like 5 spots. That's it. I'm in a shallow league with 5 spots. Aaron Jones, no IR. 4 games, he's gone. There's a bye week in between there. He's not coming back till like week 7. I'm going to feel free. I'm going to go ahead and drop Aaron Jones in that league. It helps that I have Jordan Mason, but in that shell, I'm going to do it. But if I am in a deep bench where I have like 8, 9 guys, I can hold through. Or if there's an IR spot, that's the way to go.
And I'm going to go ahead and answer this one for all of us because it's an easy one. Trade Cup and DJ Moore for JSN, or trade Cup, DJ Moore and Daniel Jones for JSN. Absolutely, yes. You could throw somebody else in there, and it would still be worth trading for JSN with that package. Absolutely, trade.
Throw Aaron Jones in there.
Yeah, throw Aaron Jones.
Different person. Yeah.
All right, Kyle, you're up. Give us your first smash play for this week.
Yeah, I'm going to go Harold Fannin, tight end 13 for this week. He's put together a solid back-to-back weeks, finishing tight end 10, tight end 13, and he still hasn't found the end zone yet, guys. Fannin is second on the team in targets, averaging 7 a game. He's first in receptions. He's first in targets per route run, and he also leads the team in yards per route run as well. They're lining this dude up all over the formation. I mean, he's running routes out of the slot at a 48% rate. He's lining up as an inline tight end, running routes out of there, 39.7%. This is Joe Flacco's guy. This is David Njoku from 2023 into the season run with Flacco. This is his guy. And I know Green Bay has a really good defense. We've talked about that. But in the 2 games that they have played, the tight ends have done really well in that game. Week 1 was an ugly all-around game for the Detroit Lions, right? But the shining star was Sam Laporta. He had 6 catches, 79 yards. And then in week 2 against the Commanders, Zach Ertz went 6 for 64 and a touchdown. And guys, did you know in both of these games, the tight ends have led that team in yards against them? Will we see it again? It'll probably be David Njoku with the burn. But yeah, I really like Harold Fannin here in this spot.
Yep, completely agree. I love Fannin this week as well. All right, Dub has some more clarity for us. I have Chase Brown and Bijan as my running back. Should I play Walker over Chase and play Keenan Allen in the flex, or play Chase and Walker in the flex? So basically, between Chase Brown, Kenneth Walker, Keenan Allen, how do you want these guys in your lineup? For me, I'm playing Jamar Chase, Chase Brown, Kenneth Walker. Keenan Allen would be the odd man out in that scenario.
Absolutely.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah. And keep an eye on that Zach Charbonnet. If they rule him out,
Yeah.
we're looking at 20 plus touches for Walker.
Yeah. And Philip was a fan of the Harold fan and Love as well. And then, hey, who knows? Maybe the opportunity gets even bigger for Fannin if they do move off.
That's a good point.
It would make sense.
That is a
For
very
a team
good
like
point.
Cleveland with him in a contract year, that would make a lot of sense for them to send him to a contender at the trade deadline. I have Burrow in 7 of my 16 leagues. I will hold Burrow for fantasy playoffs. I do not care because he's not coming back until December. Shallow league, 1 IR.
Okay,
at least you got the IR spot.
At least you got the IR, yeah.
That makes it a little bit. God, that's brutal. 7 of 16, man.
I
wouldn't hold Burrow.
As long as you've got
the IR spot's fine.
No problem holding on to him. Yeah, if you're talking about no IR spot and shallow benches, that makes things a lot different.
It does.
That's brutal. That's, man, injuries suck. I wish we could turn off the injury button somewhere.
I know.
Are you that guy on Madden, Drew? Do you turn the injuries off in Madden when you're?
No, I don't, but I should. We got a question for the sickos. Dontavian Wicks, Kayshawn, it ain't just Shabuti, it's Shabuti or Trey Tucker, full PPR. Do either of you guys have a hard stance on this one? Because I have my order. So I guess I'll throw my order out there, and you guys can let me know.
Go right ahead.
It's got to be Booty. Right?
I've got Booty, Wicks, Trey Tucker in that order.
That's how I have it.
Yeah,
Wicks and Booty are close though. I will say, with the Jaden Reed injury and me having a soft spot for Dontavian Wicks and seeing how good he looked last week and how good that offense has been, it's close between those two guys.
You got to go Booty though, because you've seen it out of him already. You know, we haven't seen Wicks really yet this year.
Yeah, no, you have.
Yeah, Booty's I don't.
And
see
Pittsburgh's
him.
defense has not been as expected.
Dude, what is up with that?
Actually, been a pretty solid matchup. So, so it looks like we got a clean sweep for Booty. Even if we go into the comments, we still have a clean sweep for Booty. So, okay, now that we got some deep league stuff out of the, and he went right into my starting lineup too, because my lineup is that bad in the listener league. So Wicks went right into my starting lineup. Hopefully he can help lead me to a victory. Jesus Christ, I hope so. All right, so the final of our first set of smash plays for the week. I ended up going with Ramondre Stevenson. He's running back 30 in the ECR against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I wanted this to be a Travion Henderson segment so bad, but we already talked about. I think that he is still the guy to own in the future. I still think he's a buy low candidate. Somebody you should go get. But for now, we're going to have to talk about why I think Ramondre Stevenson is going to finish better than when he's ranked in the ECR this week. And no matter how much I want this to be Henderson's backfield through 2 weeks, Stevenson has handled 56% of the team's rushing attempts from the running back position, at least 100% of the carries inside the 5-yard line. And he's also led all Patriots running backs with a 43.4% route percentage. Even if over half his receiving yards did come on that 56-yard catch he had last week, the main point is the fact that Stevenson is getting the majority of the work in his backfield, and the matchup is a really solid one. We're working off small sample sizes. Obviously, we're only 2 weeks into the season, but the Steelers have been the best matchup for fantasy running backs through the first 2 weeks based on schedule-adjusted fantasy points given up to the running back position. Breece Hall was the running back 8 in week 1 against the Steelers, and then Kenneth Walker was the running back 7 last week, despite the fact that he only played 35% of snaps. And now Ramondre is not as explosive as Breece Hall or Kenneth Walker. Trying to compare those guys as players is not fair, but the workload has been good enough for him to still be a top 20 fantasy running back, even with his limitations as a player. And now he has another plus matchup ahead of him. So running back 30 feels like it's a little bit too low. I've got him a few spots ahead of that. I wanted so bad to come up here and say that this was going to be the Henderson breakout week, and that this was going to be the week in this beatable matchup that Henderson was going to become the guy. But his snaps went down from week 1 to week 2. So I can't in good conscience come in here and say that that's going to be the case now that all of a sudden he's going to overtake Ramondre Stevenson. And so assuming Stevenson remains the lead guy at least for one more week, I think he's in a smash spot this week, and he's a smash play for me as bad as I wish it was Henderson, but here we are.
Sounds like you're trying to tell me to get him into my Scott Fishbowl lineup because I've been benching him all this time. It sounds like I need to get him in over George Pickens.
No, it does not.
Well, that's tough because I don't know if I do that because I love Pickens this week. He was almost in consideration for a smash play, and to be completely honest with you, the only reason I didn't pick him was because he was a smash play for me last week, and I didn't want to play the same player 2 weeks in a row. But he hit though; it ended up being a great call. Pickens finished well ahead of his ECR last week, and I think he's going to do it again this week. So
shout out to Drew. He went 4 for 4 on those smash and pass calls. So you got to give you those flowers, man. You went 4 for 4 on that.
Appreciate
Rising
that.
star and Drew. Yeah, absolutely. You deserve it.
Aiden is trying to trigger me in the comments. It won't work. I will not. I will not let that work for me at all.
Yeah, he loved that.
All right. Let's see. I think we're caught up as far. Oh wait, no.
We got one from him.
No, he's already gone.
Here.
What do we do about Travis Hunter? Hold or
We-
trade? I personally don't want to deal with all this wide receiver cornerback confusion.
All right, so here's what you're gonna do, Turgay, is you're gonna look at Travis Hunter and you're gonna look at the matchup, and you're gonna see a very difficult one for BTJ against Derek Stanley. You're gonna look at Trevor Lawrence. You're gonna think, wow, the quarterback play has to be atrocious because look how poor it's been. And then you look a little bit deeper at the layers, and you look at Trevor Lawrence's accuracy, an accurate throw rate, 56% so far. Again, small sample size, 2 games, 5% higher than his career average. Well, it can't just be that. It's got to be the poor throw rate, maybe turnover worthy throws. Nope. That's also the best it's been for his career. Again, 2-game sample. Let's be cautious. Well, then it's probably going to come down to the receiver. So what turns a receiver's week around sometimes is when you take an ideal scenario, which is the Jacksonville Jaguars are second in the NFL in terms of targets thrown to the wide receiver position. 71%. Actually, it's the 4th highest percentage, 71%, the second most targets. Let me clarify. And insert ideal scenario number 2, which is Travis Hunter, who leads the Jags in slot percentage against a team who allows the 5th most targets to the slot position in the Houston Texans. And granted, those 2 slot wide receiver matchups have been Puka Nacua and Emeka Egbuka. I think that doesn't mean that they were forcing everything to the position simply because of the talent. Doesn't hurt the case. But Houston, if they're going to be susceptible to one position, I think this is the whole kerfuffle between Cohen and Trevor Lawrence. I really believe if he wants to get this team back together as far as like all on one page, whatever the case might have been. Far from it that I follow the Jags close enough to know everything. Sure seems like if I was picking out a scenario where I would try to hyper target somebody or even just target and hope for high quality touches out of the slot and against a team that does allow, quite a bit of forgiveness to that position is my Travis Hunter smash play number 2, by the way. So good time. I tell you, it feels like, what a setup. Thank you.
Yeah,
that was a perfect segue. I didn't even have to do it. Very well done. and I agree. I think that things have to turn around for Travis Hunter. We didn't talk about him in the rookie running back segment because he's not a running back. So, he can play a lot of positions. Apparently running back isn't one of them. But I completely agree. I like things to turn around for Travis Hunter sooner rather than later. Hey, we're already talking about rookies. Why stop, right? Let's just keep things rolling. So, Kyle, just go ahead and give us your second smash play for this week as well.
Yeah, it's I'm gonna roll the dice here on Bill Crosby Merritt, running back 28. Last week I upset the boss a little bit with the whole F1 not scary Terry talk, where I faded him on the short week. I don't want to do that again. This week I'm gonna hit the smash button. Yeah, it was.
Just for what it's worth.
So this week I'm gonna hit the smash button again on Bill Crosby Merritt. After a horrendous, no doubt, 4-carry night for 17 yards against Green Bay. We talked about it last week. We talked about it tonight. The Packers defense is legit. But you know what? Bills didn't really get an opportunity that Thursday night. I thought the Commanders kind of abandoned the run in that game when they were actually still in it. 8 total team carries in the second half, and the Packers only scored 3 points in the third quarter. It was a 2-score game at the end of 3. They abandoned the run, and I don't think they needed to do that, and I don't think that's going to happen again against the Raiders this week. I think Cliff Kingsbury is going to get back to the run. We're going to get BCM, Bill Krusky-Merritt, the ball, and a steady workload for 2 reasons. Eckler, out for the season. Prayers up to him, man. Feel for him. Good dude. Fantasy lover, by the way. Just an all-around good guy. I hate to see awful news. But the other reason is Jaden Daniels' knee injury, too. That he looks like right now he's questionable. If he plays through it, I don't think he's going to be out there running a lot of RPO, running a lot of running with himself, because they want to protect that knee. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to get Krusky-Merritt a nice little run, and we've seen him pop off before, guys. Week 1, he averaged 8.2 yards per carry on 10 touches. Give him the damn ball, and I think maybe magic will happen for Krusky-Merritt. So, yeah, I'm going to roll the dice with him again. I was wrong last week, but I'm gonna roll it again this week.
No, I like the call. I think he's a borderline RB2, very, very solid flex play. I think that you should have him in your lineups this week. Absolutely. Mogg said he's calling a major consistent dip in touches if Tootin does it again and again. Tootin did look good in his first, extended look at work after they traded Tank Bigsby as the Jags RB2. He looked solid. He did. So what do you guys think about the possibility of trying to possibly sell high on Travis Etienne at this point? I already mentioned I have him as a top 12 running back once again this week. So I still think that Etienne at least has a little bit of time left as a starter, but it's very possible that Tootin's role grows sooner rather than later. So, Kyle, do you have any strong feelings on when and if you should sell Travis Etienne?
I don't know. I just feel like in a Liam Cohen offense, I feel like they're both going to get used. Bucky didn't take off till like week 8, week 9 of last season.
Yeah.
And
deep in the year.
I still think you can use ETN. I don't think you need to sell him high. Yeah, it depends on how high they're going to sell him for. That's one thing.
Yeah, it all comes back to what you can get in return, right?
And you know what? I don't know if these two are even equal to like a Bucky and Rashad White. I just feel like I don't know. I feel like it might be a little bit different. I don't know if I'm all in on Tootin yet. He looked good, no doubt, but I still think ETN's the guy right now, in my opinion. How about you guys? You feel any different?
I've got 18 in a couple spots because, I was advocating to draft him this offseason, and I have not had the itch to sell him yet. I'm kind of riding this thing out. That could be because on the teams I have him, I kind of need him because, I invested in some of those rookies I was talking about that are underperforming. So right now I need ETN to fill those holes. And so I can't really trade him, but I think it all just comes back to what the rest of your running back depth looks like, and then what you can get in return. There's whenever it comes to traded questions, there's always a lot of nuance and a lot of room for interpretation. So it's tough. Business overrides all that money if ETN demands too much money. We don't know what his long-term future looks like with Jacksonville for sure. But I think a lot of it just comes down to what your team's looking like whenever it comes to that. All right, my last smash play for the week. Nate, I did this one for you. Xavier Worthy's expected to make his return this week, but I'm not expecting him to be thrown into a full-time role right off the bat, first action of the season. So I've got wide receiver Marquise Brown as a smash play this week. And I think that he's going to be heavily involved in the Chiefs passing offense at least one more week. Through 2 weeks, he leads all Kansas City pass catchers in target share, targets per route run, and yards per route run. He's also the team leader in first read percentage and first downs per route run as well. He has been the guy. Obviously, wasn't as involved in week 2 as he was in week 1, but still had, I think, like 5 targets in week 2 to go along with the impressive target share in week 1. And again, small sample alert, but the Giants have been the 5th best matchup for fantasy receivers through 2 weeks. They gave up the big game to Deebo Samuel in week 1. CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens were both top 15 receivers last week. And so, whenever you look at the ECR, there's guys like Devontae Smith, Jacoby Myers, who are ahead of Hollywood Brown that I have ahead. I've got Hollywood ahead of those guys in my rankings. So whenever you look at Hollywood Brown, what I think could possibly be his last week as the lead receiver, but we'll see. We'll see how Xavier where he looks. But I think for at least one more week in a plus matchup, he should be the go-to guy for Kansas City. So wide receiver 32 in the ECR, Hollywood Brown is going to be a smash play for me this week.
I do agree. There will be pressure on Mahomes. The nice thing is that Simmons was solid at left tackle, and yeah, first time in his career to ever go 0-2. I can't say I'm worried. I mean, I'm not like happy and optimistic, but just makes it a little bit sweeter when all the pundits will come out and talk their talk, and then they'll go on. Last year when they were 8-0, they were the worst 8-0 team in the history of the NFL. And this year they're going to be had their just desserts, and this is what they should be all along. And it's fine. Do I think that they're in a great spot? No, of course not. It sucks when you have your top 2 receivers are out and you lose some pieces to your offensive line, but I get it. The haters going to hate. And when let Buffalo win something, Aiden, I mean, I was a Buffalo fan back before you were born when they lost 4 Super Bowls in a row. You know how hard it is to be a fan of a team that loses 4 Super Bowls in a row? It's really difficult to lose 4 Super Bowls in a row. It's really difficult to get to 4 Super Bowls in a row, but it's even more difficult to lose 4. In fact, actually, I don't think any team's ever done that. Wait, one team has. So we'll go ahead and any other questions for me, Aiden? Right ahead, buddy.
Hey, and funny story about that, Nate. As a kid growing up, I actually bet on the Buffalo Bills every single year that they made the Super Bowl and lost. I kept backing, this is the year. This is the year. And
as it should have been.
It was not.
Well,
you would have thought it would have been the year eventually, but nevertheless, it was not. All right. So while the Bills might be 0-4 in Super Bowls, we are certainly none of us are going to go 0-4 on these pass plays this week. These are going to be guaranteed hits. So we're talking about whenever we're looking at our pass plays, we want to focus on some of the guys that you're thinking about having to start this week. So we've got players inside the top 15 quarterbacks, inside the top 20 running backs, top 35 wide receivers, or the top 12 tight ends in the Fantasy Pros Week 3 expert consensus rankings. Guys that we might think you just need to temper expectations on a little bit this week, maybe make, other plans in your lineup to make up for where they might lack, or guys that you should just sit all together. So, Nate, what is your first pass for Week 3?
Yeah, when we were talking off air, one of the things too is that we're kind of pigeonholed into 2 distinct terms. Smash, you're playing the guy in most scenarios. Pass, you're passing on the person in most scenarios. Well, this is a temper expectation pass, and Josh Jacobs against Cleveland. Now, today's news came out, and it makes me reinforce a little bit more so that he had limited in practice, and that had nothing to do with my original pass play. I will make a caveat to that. That just adds to it. So I do feel a little bit smarter, or maybe better off that I'm not going to completely botch this. But the fantasy success for Josh Jacobs is not one that's just predicated on the touchdown volume. I know that. We all know that. The volume's there. But the fact that he's had a touchdown in 10 straight games definitely strengthens that the resolve to continue to have him in your lineup. And while volume and touchdowns have been a key this season, he has really, 3.5 yards per carry. Cleveland's not an easy task by any means. We talked about this again, one of these little stats off air, that their average yards before contact or yards at contact per attempt is in the negatives. So people are actually, the defense for Cleveland is getting through. They're getting great pressure. not making the tackle necessarily, but it's, first contact. And Josh Jacobs is more than adequate to have yards after contact and be successful. But Cleveland hasn't allowed an explosive run yet. I mean, there's a lot of factors lining up to slow Josh Jacobs down. If you take away the touchdown and you take away the fact that maybe in the second half, if he is banged up, they don't play him the entire second half, there's a path to him having 12 to 14 touches. And if you average the 3.5 yards per yards per attempt, you're talking 45, 50 total yards, no touchdown, not a huge pass catching role, and a potential lead for Green Bay that they're comfortable sitting him. And I could see the bottom really falling out this week, but it's a temper expectation. It's hard for me to truly sit Josh Jacobs. You know what I mean? It means maybe let's shoot for that higher upside flex spot, or when you're choosing between two, look for the ceiling more for the safer play, just to make do or make up for some of the potential lack of points.
Maybe he punches one in from the goal line or something and saves kind of the fantasy day, right?
But that saved his fantasy weeks 1 and 2. That's why he, I mean, if he didn't have them,
weeks now,
we might be having a different discussion. If you look at,
that's true.
You take the two running, they take the touchdowns away, and he's the RB. What's that, like 51 on the season or whatever the number would be? It would be different. We would still give him the benefit and say, oh, touchdown regression positively, he's going to get in the end zone. But you're exactly right.
Yeah, that's what happens whenever you're betting on those guys that don't have the passing game usage. All right, Kyle, we're not taking a break from big names, that's for certain. So go ahead and give us your pass play for this week.
Yeah, and Nate, we kind of joked off the air that, like, if I say something crazy, you didn't want to like talk too much because you're under the weather. But I view T. Higgins a little bit different than you do, actually, at wide receiver 24. We know that Higgins is a boomer bust wide receiver, right? We can all agree with that, and that's with Joe Burrow. Now with Jake Browning, I fear that he's more bust than boom. Although I realize it's a small sample size, Higgins' target share dropped to 15.6% with Browning in the second half. And last year with Burrow, he held a 23.1% share. And you already went back to 2023, Nate, but in the games that he played with Browning, Higgins did pop off twice, 2 out of 5 times. But the other 3 games that he played in, he scored under 10 points or fewer than 10. Now, what makes me say that this week's a bust instead of a boom? Well, it's Minnesota's defense. They've only allowed 173 yards through the air per game, holding Penix to under 200 and Caleb just over 200. And I realize it's Caleb Williams and Michael Penix Jr., but Penix Jr. did pop off for almost 300 yards against Tampa. With both backup quarterbacks in for this game getting the nod, I kind of expect this game to be a little bit on the lower side of scoring. Both teams may be running the football a little bit more. Maybe both sides are trying to avoid their quarterback making mistakes, throwing the turnovers. So I just kind of view this one as a little bit of a lower scoring game. And if I can find a way to bench T. Higgins, I'm looking like I'm going to try to do so if I can.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's very fair to temper expectations for Cincinnati playmakers in general. We don't know what this offense is going to look like without Joe Burrow. So it's going to be tough to navigate. And it's not going to be easy to see the guy that you drafted at the 2-3 turn. Now you're going to turn around and consider possibly putting him on your bench. That's not going to be an easy pill to swallow. But
I will say this. I'll go, and I think that Mike Gesicki might actually outscore T. Higgins this week. I mean, that slot, he's playing a lot in the slot.
Gesicki outscored Noah Fant.
I mean, I'm just looking at slot against, it's not even, Minnesota is so tricky, just in general, because there's their safety alignment and how they set it up. And I don't like any of the matchups in Cincy outside of maybe Chase Brown. That might be the only one that I would actually feel good playing, but you're not going to feel terrible when you have Jamar Chase, unless you see that, like you said earlier, Drew, you see that average 24.5 out of him, from your fantasy platform, whatever it may be. When he puts up 14.5 on, 6 for 80 yards, and you're like, I need Tony Pollard to come through, right? Or a reminder.
Exactly.
Or
exactly.
There you go.
One thing's for sure, though, is I do think Jamar Chase will see 12, 13, 14 targets from Browning, because I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I do believe, I remember he targeted Jamar Chase a lot back in 2023 when he filled in for Burrow's injury on the wrist.
Targeted him a lot last week.
Yeah, that's
last week.
Yeah, that was another thing I missed to say it, but T. Higgins only caught one pass in that second half. Yes, it went for a touchdown.
Yeah.
But
that's because all the rest of them went to Jamar Chase.
Exactly. Yeah. So I feel like it's a good spot to pass on T. Higgins this week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. All right, my first pass spot for this week is going to be James Conner, and I'm going to be honest. I really thought the whole Trey Benson is going to get more work narrative this offseason was just one of those coach speak things. I didn't buy into it, but it looks like they might have actually been onto something. James Conner, he's still playing a slightly higher percentage of the snaps and getting more of the carries. It's still more of a split backfield than it was last year. That's for sure. Connor's handled 68% of the team's running back rushing attempts through 2 weeks, but Benson has been much more efficient with his carries. He's got 10 more rushing yards, despite the fact that he has 12 less carries. He's got a higher yards per carry, a higher missed tackles forced per attempt, and he's the only Cardinals running back to have a rushing attempt over 15 plus yards on the season. It's been the more efficient and the more explosive running back. So it's easy to see why they're wanting to get him more involved. And then whenever it comes to the pass catching opportunities, Benson has actually run 2 more routes than Conner on the year, and their receiving stats are almost identical, with Benson being slightly more productive. So we got a more efficient and explosive runner, a more productive pass catcher. It's a year 2 guy that they just invested a second round pick in last year that they're starting to trust with more work. So Trey Benson, this is becoming more and more of just a 50-50 backfield at this point. And then you factor in that Conner has a matchup with the 49ers defense that's been the 5th toughest matchup for fantasy running backs over the first 2 weeks of the season. Again, I know a small sample. We're talking about nothing but small samples whenever we're talking about trends this early in the year. But, we're talking about Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker in week 1, Alvin Kamara in week 2. They haven't given up. There hasn't been a top 20 fantasy running back against this 49ers run defense so far through the first 2 weeks of the year. And it's not like that they're going up against scrubs. So I think that's something worth paying attention to. So whenever you consider the fact of the timeshare that Conner has found himself in, the difficult matchup against the Niners this week at running back 17, James Conner, he's a pass for me. I'm looking for ways to get off to him or just, temper my expectations if I have to start him. All right. Buy price for Benson as a cuff. I think he's somebody worth going out and buying. Because I think his just role is going to continue to grow. So if you can trade somebody of that similar like handcuff to fringe starter level, I think it's a deal worth making. And traded Hurts, JSN, and Ridley for Lamar and Nico, plus some draft pick upgrade for next year. What do you think? So traded Hurts, JSN, and Ridley for Lamar and Nico, plus some draft pick upgrades. You upgraded at quarterback going from Hurts to Lamar. I think JSN and Nico are, based on how good JSN has looked this year and what his target share looks like, even though Nico has been disappointing so far to start the year, I think that that's probably close to a wash at that point. So basically you're looking at trading Ridley for some draft pick upgrades for next year. And so I think that's, assuming that you didn't have a bunch of championship aspirations for this year, I think that's a solid move. I don't know if you guys disagree.
Yeah, at first glance, I was like, ooh, but then I started reading more into it and saw the draft pick upgrade for next year. Because you laid it out beautifully, Drew. It's pretty even there. And then, getting rid of Ridley at the right time, in my opinion, he's getting up there in age for Dynasty. So, yeah, that was I do actually like that move.
Yeah, obviously the last game being as unhinged as it was for many people with the tush push. Yeah. And it wasn't even the Chris thing. It wasn't in Kansas City. It wasn't like I didn't hear anybody complaining any more than just the normal, but the media coming out. How far does Hurts go? Let's say he was the QB5 in, kind of pre-draft, maybe QB4 this year. If that was banned, how far does Hurts fall in your dynasty quarterback rank? I mean, 2 spots, 1 spot, no spots, 6 spots. I don't know. I mean, because if you take away 6, 7 rushing touchdowns, it's obviously a pretty significant number.
Yeah, I mean, he's behind Lamar, Allen, Daniels for sure. And then probably instead of being like the clear last of that first tier, he probably gets mixed in with the next tier somewhere, I would say.
Yeah. Is he around Drake May?
Well, that's the hard part.
He's probably in that area.
Yeah.
Which
After
I think
the
this
first
is just
2
a keeper
games.
league, honestly. I don't even think that this is a dynasty league. I think this is a keeper because he's talking about that he got a 2nd and a 16th for a 17th and an 18th. So he got an extra 2nd round pick in a keeper league next year, which is pretty solid.
That's almost like a 1st round pick, really, because everybody keeps their guy. So
yeah, to get an extra 2nd round pick, and then you get a 16th for just 2 late round picks, and then Calvin Ridley.
I like that.
I think you came out well. And then Moggs, I think Zach Charbonnet, Kenneth Walker. I think Zach Charbonnet, Trey Benson. I think that they're right in that same territory. Joshua has a pick two, and a pick 1. So 2 running backs between Stevenson, Connor, and Jacobs. 2 receivers between Jefferson, Zay Flowers, and Tyreek Hill, and then a flex between the leftovers. So let's knock out the pick 2 and the pick 2 real quick. Between the 2 running backs and the 2 receivers, Josh Jacobs, locked and loaded. It's between Ramondre Stevenson and I know I just talked badly about. I know I just talked badly about him, but between Ramondre Stevenson and James Conner, I do still have James Conner.
I do too.
Higher.
Yeah.
So the pick 2 running backs is Connor and Jacobs. The pick 2 receivers is Jefferson, Flowers for me. I don't know if you guys disagree.
I would.
But even with the backup quarterback, I'm still throwing up Jefferson and Flowers in there. But would you guys play Tyreek or Debo over those 2 guys?
I want to go Debo really bad, especially in PPR. I guess I kind of play it by ear here. Well, if Jaden Daniels goes, maybe we go Debo. But if he doesn't go, if he sits, then you go Zay Flowers on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, I want to monitor Jalen Waddle
target share right now.
Yeah,
I don't know what Jalen Waddle's situation is as of right now either.
He's questionable as well.
I know.
Let me ask you guys this: 1 flex between Ramondre, Tyreek Hill, Debo Samuel. Between those 3 guys, if you had to flex one, it probably comes down to Tyreek or Debo, if I had to guess.
It does. For
I
me.
don't like Tyreek's matchup with Buffalo for me.
So you would be Debo there. I've got him extremely close, so I could be persuaded either way.
It's all about. I mean, just if Waddle doesn't suit up, I'm fine with. I mean, and I don't know if it's the squeaky wheel gets the grease after the whole Tyreek, jumping off the sideline when he was open and then he got it, airballed, and there was a lot of. That's Tyreek being Tyreek, and usually what happens when he does that is they give him the ball in space and he turns it into something, which he hasn't done quite often, to be fair. That's the one thing with Tyreek that we haven't seen is the yak hasn't been there. And that's been his, catching in space, kind of sporadic. Usually he catches people deep, but not with Tua. I'm sorry, it's long-winded. I'm gonna go with Tyreek, assuming Waddle doesn't play. If he does play, I go Debo.
But see, here's what I'm thinking too. Now, I mentioned if Jaden Daniels plays, but even if he doesn't play, doesn't that mean Debo sees a lot of running back work too?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think that's what they do at running back.
You mean like design plays in the backfield,
for
like
Debo,
screens, or are you talking out of the running back?
Both. Giving the ball more out of the backfield, maybe some sweeps. He's done running back before, and he does sweeps. So maybe they lean on him a little bit if he's got Jaden Daniels not playing. Who's their backup again? Is it
Marcus Mariota?
Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, Marcus Mariota. They're going to want to play that safe. I don't know. That's a tough one.
Yeah, I think it comes down to Tyreek or Debo in the flex. I think that's the tough decision to make at that point. But I think you fire up Connor and Jacobs, you fire up Jefferson and Zay Flowers, and then decide between those two guys in the flex. We talked about some rookie running backs earlier, but Hampton, Henderson, or Harvey this week, I think it's still Hampton for me this week between the three, those three rookies.
Volume in that
Kelsey
one.
or Ferguson.
Yeah. Man,
love this Dallas Cowboys Chicago Bears game, man.
I'm still going Kelsey personally, but I get the appeal for Ferguson.
Yeah,
I still got Kelsey ahead of it.
With Rashee Rice out right now, Kelsey is the security blanket. Kelsey for sure.
Yeah,
would you trade Jamar Chase for Jason and Bucky full PPR hurting on running back? Yeah. Yeah, I think Jason and Bucky is in full PPR with the volume that Jason is seeing. I think that's a fine package for Jamar if you want to move off of him. And not very often that I would advocate for moving off Jamar, but I think that's a fair trade person.
That's very good. Yeah, no, I like that a lot because you get Bucky out of this too. JSN's not that far behind Jamar Chase in my opinion, and then you get Bucky out of it. So yeah, I like it.
Yeah, and the other thing I'll leave you with 7 leaves is don't worry about what the next team is going to look like. I'll just focus on what helps you build the best team. Even if you think that you're helping build the next guy a better team, at the end of the day, if you think your roster gets better by the move you're making, that's really all that matters.
Yes.
As long as you feel that your team is getting better, it doesn't matter what the trade does for the next team. That's how you find trade partners, is finding a trade that benefits both teams. So that's how you get a trade done in the first place. So I wouldn't stress about that last part.
Now the league is definitely going to say something because the guy's going to have Chase and CeeDee Lamb. They're going to go up in arms but they're not going to look at the trade. They're just going to see this dude with CeeDee Lamb and Chase, and they're going to raise hell. But you've got a great deal out of that, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. I think that Jason and Jamar Chase are very, very comparable rest of the season, knowing that Jamar Chase is going to have Jake Browning. He's still going to have huge spike weeks. He's already shown that he can do it, but I think that they're pretty comparable rest of the season. And then you get what I have is a top 12 running back rest of the season with Bucky Irving tied in with that as well. I think, you add a top 12 receiver and a top 12 running back rest of the season. If things play out the way I think they will. So I don't mind that at all. One of the best running back rooms I've ever heard of, bench 1 PPR, Ashton Genty, Chase Brown, Kyrie Williams, Alvin Kamara, and Jordan Mason. Holy shit.
Yeah.
What a running back room.
God, this is the problem about being deep. My God, that is a nice. Oh, because I saw a thing out there with Kamara.
It's between Kamara and Kyron for me. I'm playing Genty, Chase Brown, and Jordan Mason with the Aaron Jones injury. Those 3. I'm playing
Kyron.
I saw a stat though where the Seahawks give up the most receptions to the running back. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you got to sit Kamara in this one.
Oh no, I don't. I sit Kyron.
Oh, Kyron?
Yeah, against Philly. I just
good point. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Everything you just said too.
He saw more work go to Blake Corum last week,
especially high value touches too.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm sitting Kyron out of this group. It's really close between him and Kamara, but I think Kyron is the one to sit.
That's the right call, Kyron to sit.
Yeah, and Clarity agrees. I'm thinking Kyron against the Eagles right now. I wonder if this is the Clarity that I think it is. I know what Clarity. I wonder if that's him. Yeah, Genty will be fine. I don't know what the Raiders are doing, but asking Geno Smith to throw the ball 50 times whenever they spend a top 10 pick on a running back, but
I saw that same clip. I did see that.
Okay. All right. So we talked about Josh Jacobs. We talked about T. Higgins. We talked about James Conner. let's get into our second set of passes. Nate, we're going to kick it off with you. Mike Evans, tell us why you are lower than consensus on him this week.
I'll just keep it short and sweet. Target volume's been there. 12th amongst wide receivers and targets. Advanced metrics are fine. Matchups, while they have been tough, 10 yards per catch, 52% catch rate, none of which are great. While there'll be brighter days ahead, it's the sun's not going to come out on tomorrow for when you're facing up against Sauce. And I could go through the Sauce superlatives as far as how he's done. It's not just a name recognition thing. He's actually been probably the best, if not a top 2 or 3 corner as a whole. So it's not just Sauce versus Mike Evans. I don't want anything. And now the Buccaneers just lost another offensive lineman. And I think that there's a little concern for that offense as a whole to get a lot running that maybe doesn't go to the slot with Igbuka, who I'm fine with that play. But yeah, I'm going to keep it short and sweet since we're running so far. So Mike Evans against the Jets.
Yeah. All right. Should I trade Achane straight up for Bucky? I prefer Achane slightly. But Kyle, do you disagree? Achane for Bucky? What do you?
No, I would. After seeing last week, Rashad White got involved quite a bit.
He did.
Achane's the man there in Miami. He's getting a bulk of the work. He looks good. He's popping off each and every week. I'm going to keep Achane in this one, only because of what I saw out of Rashad White last week. I also forgot to say that Bucky, wrapping up his groin or something this past week. So I want to see that kind of shake out. But even besides that, Achane just looks so good. He's like the only thing in Miami right now. So yeah, I like Achane. I'm going to keep him.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Nate, we appreciate you hanging out with us tonight, man. We appreciate you making it. You fought through, brother. Yep. You were able to give us your smash and pass plays. We appreciate you fighting through and battling the sickness, man. But now that you were able to get both of your smash plays, both of your pass plays on record, we will bid you adieu.
See you guys. Bye, guys.
Sleep well.
Appreciate
yes.
We'll see you next week, man.
Get some rest, man. Yep. And then there was 2.
And then there was 2. How much you throw on top of Samson to get Sharp or Benson from a Judkins owner? I'd be willing to add a little bit to it, but you're trading handcuffs for handcuffs, so I wouldn't go too crazy, but I'd be willing to add a little bit to it. But surprise article drop. Kyle, this is relevant for you.
Okay.
Because you can now find Kyle's plays and fades for week 3 over on our website now. So look, I know it's going to be a great article. Don't get me wrong. Don't leave us yet. Hang out for just a little bit longer. And then whenever we close this show out here in just a few minutes, then go over to the website, check out the plays and fades for week 3. The link is in the comments if you need it. But make sure whenever we're done here, make sure to go check that out for some lineup advice for week 3. Kyle's got you taken care of.
Spoiler alert, some of the guys I talked about tonight are included there, but a little bit of a deeper dive in there if you check it out.
Yeah, well, you've got one more pass play to go over for this week. So talk to us about why you're a little bit lower than most on Kyler Murray this week.
Yeah, he really hasn't impressed me with his arm, honestly. He's averaging only 191.5 passing yards a game, and he's only thrown 4 passes for 20 yards or more, ranking near the bottom of all starting quarterbacks. Jake Browning, to give you an idea, has thrown 6, if that tells you anything, and he's only played a half. If you think Mahomes' ADOT is low, look at Kyler Murray. It's even lower at 6.5, and you can make the argument, okay, well, what about Jalen Hurts? His ADOT is low as well. But I'll just say that he just doesn't throw the ball enough for me. He doesn't throw the ball enough at all to have a higher ADOT. And at least Jalen Hurts is using his legs to make up for it. And I guess what I'm trying to say is Kyler Murray is not really making up with his legs. I know he can do it. He's looked okay at it, but he hasn't really made up with his legs for his arms, in my opinion, for his throwing. He's taken off 7 times in each game, averaging 35 yards, hasn't scored a touchdown yet. And this game against the Niners is no cupcake matchup for Kyler Murray. So I'm going to pass here in week 3. I would rather actually start I know it's kind of dangerous, but Drew, you're going to back it up. I'd rather start Matthew Stafford than Kyler Murray, maybe even Jake Browning. Maybe I'm going a little bit too far with that. That's a little bit of a toss-up. I understand if you don't want to, but I'm not afraid to even go with Russell Wilson against the Chiefs over Kyler Murray because they're going to be trailing in that football game, I would believe, early and often. And if he can cook like he cooked last week, I wouldn't mind riding the hot hand with Russ.
All right, there you go. Be worried about Kyler Murray this week. Philip went and checked out the article. Nice write-up.
Thank you,
Philip, appreciate you checking it out, man. Appreciate
I do appreciate that.
All right, last pass play for the week. For me, look, I know our boy Rhett, he's already under the weather, but he's really going to be sick if he ends up hearing how I feel about his guy, Jacoby Myers, this week. The good news that Jacoby, he's been extremely involved in the Raiders passing offense the first 2 weeks. He leads all pass catchers, including Brock Bowers, in target share, receptions, and receiving yards. But the bad news is that last week, Geno Smith looked like dog shit. And despite having 12 targets, Myers only ended up with 6 receptions for 68 receiving yards. And he finished as the wide receiver 37 on the week with 12 targets. Somehow still the wide receiver 37. Things aren't going to get any easier for the Raiders passing game this week. They're facing a Commanders defense that's been the toughest matchup through, albeit only 2 weeks, but 2 weeks. They held Malik Neighbors in check in week 1 compared to what you would expect out of Malik Neighbors. And then it was Tucker Kraft in week 2 that had a big day against Washington. They held the Packers wide receiver by committee all in check. Who knows going to get the routes, but nobody really did much of anything outside of Tucker Kraft. And so, Myers, he should continue to be a safe 4 play. He's a top 2 option in this passing offense. But given the matchup, it doesn't look like there's going to be a lot of upside there for Jacoby Myers. And so if you're somebody that is the underdog in your matchup this week and you've got Jacoby Myers as your flex play, some guys that are behind Myers right now in ECR that I have in front of Myers, Jameson Williams, Hollywood Brown that I just talked about, Jawan Jennings, they're all currently behind Jacoby Myers in the ECR. I've got all those guys ahead of Myers. So I think that there could be better wide receiver 2 or flex options out there for you if considering Myers this week. So wide receiver 28, Jacoby Myers is a pass for me.
Yeah, that does seem a little high, Drew. Wide receiver 28. When looking at right now, you could, there's a lot. Hollywood Brown, you didn't even mention him, but you have him as a smash play. You could go him as well. Yeah. Over Jacoby Myers. Yeah, so I like that call.
Yeah, so we'll see how that plays out. Hopefully, for Rhett's sake, he does better than I think. But so that wraps up week 3, smash or pass. We're dealing with some sickness on the team this week. Rhett wasn't able to make it with us at all. Nate toughed it out just to give you his outlook for this week as long as he possibly could, and then he did out as well. So I hope both of those guys get to feeling better. But as far as for Kyle and myself, our Twitter handles are down there. If you want to go check out more content that we've got coming from you, make sure to head over to the website, check out Kyle's most recent plays and fades article for week 3. If you're struggling with lineup decisions, I promise it will help you out. As far as everything else goes, we'll be back next week all over again to talk about our smash and pass plays for week 4. But until then, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you can like this video before you go tonight, it helps us out as well. And we look forward to continuing to do this with you guys as the season goes along. Best of luck in your matchups. Hit us up on our Twitter if you have any questions, anything like that. But as far as us and tonight goes, we're out. Appreciate you guys. Toodles.